The day Karen Hensley poisoned our community garden to keep out black folks was the day she thought she'd scare us away from Meadowview Heights. She didn't know I'm an environmental crimes lawyer with a knack for catching polluters, and my evidence would send her to prison for a hate crime that shocked our Georgia town. My name's Jordan Ellis, and this is the story of how one HOA tyrant's racist vendetta sickened kids, including my nephew, destroyed a garden I poured my heart into, and pushed me to deliver a takedown so airtight it's still blowing up on X. If you're watching this while fighting your own HOA nightmare, drop a comment below and tell me what U.S. city you're in. And if you're dealing with a Karen pulling stunts like this, shoot me an email pinned in the first comment. Let's talk. 2 years ago, I moved to Meadowview Heights, a diverse subdivision in Decatur, Georgia, to be near my brother, Malik, and his family. Growing up in Atlanta, Malik and I leaned on each other after our parents split. Mom worked long hours as a teacher, and Dad was barely around. I put myself through law school, specializing in environmental crimes, taking down factories that dumped toxins in black and brown neighborhoods. Malik, a high school math teacher, settled in Meadowview with his wife, Aisha, and their 8-year-old son, Caleb. When I saw Meadowview's mix of families black, white, Latino, Asian, and its community garden, I thought it was a place we could thrive. The realtor downplayed the HOA, calling it just for upkeep. I should have dug deeper. Karen Hensley, the HOA president, wasn't about upkeep. She was about control. And her bigotry ran deep. Gay Karen, mid-50s, with short gray hair and a wardrobe of floral blouses, looked like she'd host a church potluck. Instead, she ruled Meadowview like a dictator, fining people for unapproved porch lights or kids playing too loud. I met her at a welcome meeting, where she spent 25 minutes ranting about maintaining property values while eyeing me and Malik like we didn't fit her vision of Meadowview. I'm a 36-year-old black lawyer with a fade and a leather briefcase, not her idea of a proper resident. Still, I focused on the garden, a half-acre oasis I helped expand with Malik, Aisha, and neighbors. We grew tomatoes, collards, zucchini, and sunflowers, hosting barbecues and kids planting days. Caleb loved it, digging in the dirt, his laughter filling the air. Karen never showed up, but her fines did $100 for excessive foot traffic after our Juneteenth cookout. I paid it, thinking she was just petty. Then, on June 15, 2025, her hatred turned toxic. It was a muggy Sunday afternoon, the garden buzzing with families. I was weeding with Caleb, teaching him about soil pH, when Aisha called us for lemonade. Kids ran through the rows, picking beans, while parents chatted under a canopy. By evening, Caleb was vomiting, his face pale. Aisha rushed him to urgent care, where 3 other kids from the garden, Lala, Mateo, and Jamal, were also sick, complaining of nausea and dizziness. The doctor suspected food poisoning, but I wasn't buying it. We'd all eaten different things. Some brought potluck dishes, others just garden veggies. Malik called me, voice tight. "Jordan, Caleb's dehydrated. They're keeping him overnight. Something's wrong with that garden." My lawyer instincts kicked in. I'd seen cases where polluters spiked soil to dodge regulations. This felt deliberate. The next morning, I visited the garden, a pit in my stomach. The collards were wilted, their leaves yellowed and curling. Tomato plants drooped, fruit pitted with brown spots. Sunflowers sagged, their petals brittle. It wasn't drought. Georgia's rains had been steady. I grabbed gloves and a soil collection kit from my car, a habit from years of field work. Kneeling by the collards, I scooped samples into sterile vials, labeling them by plot. The dirt smelled off, faintly chemical, like weed killer. I bagged a few dead plants, too, noticing a sticky residue on the stems. My neighbor Rosa, a retired botanist, joined me, her brow furrowed. "Jordan, this looks like herbicide damage. Someone sprayed this on purpose. Rosa's words hit hard. The garden was Meadowview's heart, a place where Caleb learned to love nature, where families like ours felt safe. Poisoning it was a gut punch. I called Malik from the garden. "Caleb's stable, but he's weak," he said. "The doctor's running tox screens. Aish, a mess." My nephew, who'd spent hours planting seeds, was hooked to an IV because someone my gut said Karen had tainted his sanctuary. I drove to urgent care, where Leela's mom, Sophia, was in tears. "Leela's got a rash now, and they don't know why. We ate those beans yesterday." Mateo's dad, Carlos, added, "My son's still throwing up. This isn't normal." Jamal's grandma, Ms. Evelyn, clutched her Bible. "That garden's supposed to be a blessing, not a curse." I promised them I'd investigate. As an environmental crimes lawyer, I'd prosecuted companies for dumping arsenic in rivers. If this was intentional, I'd find the proof. Back home, I checked the group chat. It was chaos. Anyone else's? "Kid sick? The garden's dying. What's going on?" Karen posted a pinned message. "The HOA is aware of issues with the community garden. We suspect vandalism and are cooperating with authorities. Refrain from speculation." Vandalism. Her tone was too slick, too rehearsed. I posted, "My nephew and 3 other kids are in urgent care after eating garden veggies. The plants are wilted, possibly poisoned. Anyone see anything suspicious?" The chat lit up, neighbors worried, some blaming teens, others questioning the HOA's silence. Karen replied, "Mr. Ellis, your accusations are reckless. The garden's issues are under investigation. Stop spreading panic." Panic, Caleb was in a hospital bed, and Karen was playing innocent. I emailed her, copying the board. "Karen, the garden shows signs of chemical damage, and kids are sick. As a lawyer, I'm testing soil samples. If the HOA's involved, come clean now." Her reply was instant. "Mr. Ellis, your claims are baseless. The HOA will pursue fines for your disruptive behavior." Fines. She was deflecting, but her aggression told me she was scared. I sent the soil and plant samples to a lab I'd worked with on EPA cases, paying rush fees out of pocket. If herbicides were present, I'd trace them to the source. The next day, Caleb was discharged, pale and shaky. Aisha stayed home, missing her job as a social worker, her eyes red from crying. "Jordan, he can't even keep water down," she said. Malik was furious, pacing their living room. That garden was his happy place. "Who does this?" Caleb, curled on the couch, whispered, "Did I do something wrong, Uncle Jordan?" My heart broke. "No, buddy. Someone else did, and I'm gonna fix it." I hugged him, swearing to protect him, but the stakes were rising. Sophia texted, "Lila's rash was chemical dermatitis, likely from a herbicide." Carlos said Mateos. Tox screen showed traces of glyphosate, a common weed killer. Miss Evelyn prayed over Jamal, who was still nauseous. This wasn't random, it was targeted. I met Rosa at her house, where she'd been testing a plant sample with her home kit. "It's definitely glyphosate," she said, showing me a wilted leaf under a microscope. High concentration, sprayed. Recently, this wasn't an accident. Rosa, who'd faced Karen's fines for her unapproved rose bushes, suspected her. Karen complained about the garden's crowds at the last HOA meeting, said it brought the wrong element. The wrong element. Meadowview was diverse, but Karen's dog whistle racism was clear. She meant black and brown families like mine. I dug into the HOA bylaws, finding a clause requiring board approval for chemical use on common areas. No such approval existed. Karen had acted alone, or with allies. I needed proof. I called my old law school friend, Naya, a hacker turned private investigator who'd helped me on corporate pollution cases. "Jordan, I'll check Karen's digital footprint," she said. "HOA servers are usually weak. Give me 48 hours. While Naya worked, I canvassed neighbors. Mr. Chen, a gardener, saw a woman matching Karen's build near the garden at 5 a.m. on June 14th, carrying a sprayer. Didn't think much of it, he said. But she was sneaky. Sophia found a discarded herbicide bottle in the woods behind the garden, its label half-torn but showing glyphosate. I bagged it for prints, my lawyer brain racing. If Karen's fingerprints were on it, or if Nia found emails, we had her. The group chat grew hotter, with neighbors demanding the garden be closed for safety. Karen posted, "The HOA is temporarily restricting garden access due to vandalism concerns. We'll update you soon." Restricting access, she was hiding evidence. Then came the HOA letter, a $1,000 fine for me, citing spreading false accusations and endangering community harmony. They threatened to lien on my house if I didn't retract my claims. Karen was swinging hard, betting I'd back down. She didn't know I'd prosecuted polluters who'd poisoned entire towns. I'd faced death threats from factory CEOs and one. A cardigan-wearing HOA bully didn't scare me. I met Sophia, Carlos, and Ms. Evelyn at Rosa's, forming a small alliance. Sophia, a graphic designer, was livid about Leela's rash. Karen fined me $150 for my gaudy porch flag last month. This feels personal. Carlos, a chef, said she cited us for Mateo's soccer ball rolling into her yard. Now he's sick. Ms. Evelyn, a church deacon, added, Karen's got hate in her heart. We need justice for our babies. Rosa offered her botany expertise. And I shared my plan. Get lab results, find digital proof, and take it to the police. Nia called that night. Got something, she said. Karen's personal email, linked to the HOA server, has a draft she forgot to delete. It's bad racist. As hell, I'm cracking the password now. My pulse raced. If that email tied her to the poisoning, it was game over. The lab results were due tomorrow, and the herbicide bottle was with a cop friend for prints. But Karen was moving fast. Carlos overheard her at the HOA office, planning a town hall to address the garden crisis and push for its permanent closure. If she spun this as vandalism and got the garden bulldozed, our evidence might vanish. As I sealed another soil sample, my phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. Stop snooping, Ellis, or your families. Next, Karen was watching, and she was desperate. Had I gathered enough to nail her before she erased her tracks? The threatening text, "Stop snooping, Ellis, or your family's next," burned in my mind as I stepped into the HOA's emergency meeting. My soil samples and hacked emails ready to unravel Karen Hensley's racist plot. She thought she could blame her garden poisoning on vandals and shut down the heart of Meadowview Heights. But she didn't know I'm an environmental crimes lawyer, and my evidence was about to turn her bigotry into a federal case. My name's Jordan Ellis, and this is how I went from a targeted neighbor to the attorney who exposed a tyrant and fought for my nephew's justice. The Meadowview Heights Community Center was a powder keg, 65 residents packed in, their faces a mix of worry and anger under flickering fluorescent lights. Karen stood at the podium, her gray curls pinned back, her floral blouse a facade of kindness. A projector screen flashed Garden Safety Crisis, a title that made my blood boil. She'd spent the day flooding the group chat with lies, vandals had poisoned the garden, and my reckless accusations were scaring families. My brother Malik was with Caleb at the hospital, where his condition had worsened, fever spiking, kidneys struggling. Aisha stayed home, missing work, while I sat with my coalition Sophia, Carlos, Ms. Evelyn, and Rosa clutching my laptop with lab results, a fingerprint report, and Nia's email hack. 3 USB drives backed it up, my paranoia justified after. That threatening text. Neighbors I'd barbecued with, like Mr. Chen, avoided my eyes. Swayed by Karen's spin, Karen launched her attack with fake concern. "Good evening," she said, clicking to a slide showing wilted collards and sick kids, including Caleb. "On June 15th, vandals poisoned our garden, endangering our children and costing the HOA $15,000 in cleanup." Vandals? She was rewriting history. The slide showed a closed sign on the garden gate dated yesterday. Jordan Ellis's baseless claims of HOA involvement have caused panic and division. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others glaring at me. Sophia whispered, "She's burying it." Karen continued to protect Meadowview. "We're closing the garden permanently and partnering with Hensley Landscaping, my nephew's firm for restoration." Hensley Landscaping, the same company she'd funneled $8,000 to for consulting. Last year, this was a grift. Her ally, Greg Walsh, an HOA board member with a realtor's grin, stood. "Jordan's accusations are reckless. I move we fine him $2,500 for defamation and ban him from HOA events. $2,000. I was already covering Moloch's hospital copays. A fine could break us." Kieran piled on, her voice icy. "Mr. Ellis's lies have forced us to act. Our attorney, Sandra Klein, is preparing a $30,000 slander suit to restore order. A lawsuit that could tank my law practice, my house, everything Malik and Aisha relied on." Greg added, "I propose a lien on Ellis's property until he retracts his claims and pays all fines." A lien that was a death sentence for my family. The room felt hostile. Mrs. Lopez, whose fence I'd helped paint, whispered, "He's stirring trouble." My hands clenched, but Rosa squeezed my arm. "Hold it together, Jordan." I stood, my voice cutting through the tension. "Karen, the garden wasn't vandalized. You poisoned it with glyphosate, and I have proof." The room went quiet. Karen's smile faltered. "Mr. Ellis, your claims are absurd. That soil was contaminated by outsiders." Outsiders. Her dog whistle was blatant. Carlos stood, his chef's hands balled into fists. "My son Mateo's sick from your vandalism. I filed a police report. Where's the HOA's evidence?" Karen snapped. "We're cooperating with authorities, Mr. Ramirez. Sit down." But Ms. Evelyn, clutching her Bible, stood. "My grandson Jamal's still nauseous. Jordan's not lying. Those plants were poisoned, and you know it." Her voice trembled, but her glare was steel. Neighbors whispered, some checking the group chat where I'd posted about the chemical smell. Karen banged her gavel. "This meeting is for solutions, not conspiracies." She pushed her garden closure plan, but Sophia stood. "I move we audit the HOA's finances, including payments to Hensley Landscaping, and I want Jordan's evidence shown." The crowd split, half cheering, half booing. Greg tried to shout Sophia down, but Mr. Chen, who'd seen Karen with a sprayer, raised his hand. "I saw someone at the garden at 5 a.m. before the kids got sick. Why no security footage?" The room turned on Karen, demanding answers. She adjourned the meeting, storming out with Greg, but her glance at me was pure venom. She knew I was closing in. The fallout was brutal. Someone spray-painted troublemaker on my garage door, the red letters dripping like blood. The group chat exploded with anonymous posts, likely Greg's work, calling me a race-baiting lawyer who'd faked the poisoning to sue the HOA. Caleb's fever hit 103, and his talk screen confirmed glyphosate exposure, damaging his kidneys. Aisha's landlord sent an eviction notice, citing to missed rent payments. Worst of all, Caleb came home from school crying, his backpack torn. Greg's son and his friends had taunted him, saying, "Your uncle's lying to get black people. Free stuff." The racist jab cut deep, echoing Karen's wrong element comment. Aisha, exhausted, begged me to drop it. "Jordan, we can't lose Caleb or our home. Please, just stop." Her tears broke me, but I hugged her. Karen did this, Aisha. She hurt Caleb. I'm not letting her win. I met the coalition at Roses, where the lab results had just come in. Soil samples showed glyphosate at 10 times safe levels. Sprayed within 48 hours of June 15th. Plant samples matched with residue on leaves. This was a deliberate dump, Rosa said, her botanist's eye sharp. Enough to kill crops and sicken kids. My cop friend, Officer Daniels, called. The herbicide bottle had Karen's fingerprints. Partial but clear, and a serial number, tracing to a Home Depot purchase. Naya, my hacker friend, delivered the jackpot. Karen's draft email sent to Greg read. The garden's attracting too many Black and Hispanic families. It's lowering our property values. The spray will shut it down quietly. Greg replied, do it. Hensley Landscaping's ready to fix it for a fee. It was a hate crime, plain and simple. I took the evidence to Daniels, who'd owed me since I got his cousin's factory find dropped. Jordan, this is federal, he said, reviewing the lab report. The EPA's Toxic Substances Control Act bans willful misuse of herbicides, causing harm Class C felony. Add hate crime enhancements under 18 U.S.C. 249, and Karen's looking. At 7 years, he warned me about Sandra Klein, Karen's lawyer, who had ties to the mayor. Klein's slick. She claimed the emails inadmissible. Get a clean chain of custody. I dove into the law myself, confirming Daniels's read. The EPA violation carried $50,000 fines per incident, and the hate crime charge made it federal. My soil samples, lab certified, and the fingerprinted bottle were admissible under Georgia evidence rules. Nia's email hack, though dicey, could be corroborated by Karen's Home Depot purchase history. Our coalition grew 12 neighbors now, including Mr. Chen, fined $200 for his unapproved vegetable trellis. And Mrs. Lopez hit with $150 for her loud wind chimes. We met at Sophia's, her living room cluttered with Lila's art supplies. Carlos brought HOA minutes showing Karen had blocked a garden security camera vote, claiming cost concerns. Ms. Evelyn found a neighbor who'd overheard Karen at Home Depot buying industrial-strength weed killer on June 13th. She's not just racist. I said, she's profiting off our pain. The group nodded, fired up but scared. Cleans. Lawsuit threat had spooked to members who quit fearing legal fees. We were up against a machine, and Karen's connections ran deep. The emotional toll was crushing. Caleb's kidney issues meant weekly specialist visits, costing Malik savings. Aisha missed work, her social work cases piling up, her boss threatening to fire her. Caleb stopped playing outside, scared of more taunts, his laughter gone. I wasn't sleeping, jumping at every noise, expecting Karen's next move. Then it hit, an HOA letter signed by Klein, demanding I cease false accusations or face a $30,000 suit with the mayor's CCD for intimidation. Klein's letterhead screamed power, and 3 more coalition members bailed. I called Daniels. Klein's bluffing, he said. Your evidence is rock solid. File the federal complaint now, and we'll raid the HOA office. Rosa warned, Karen's been burning papers at the office. We need to move fast. I spent the night at my home office reviewing the lab report, bottle photos, and Karen's email. That's when Naya sent a second email. Karen to Greg, post-poisoning, saying, if Ellis keeps digging, we'll pin it on those kids he's so fond of. Those kids. Caleb, Lila, Mateo, Jamal Black, and Brown children. The hate was sickening. But it was gold for court. The legal stars were aligning, but Karen was steps ahead. Sophia texted, Karen's town hall is tomorrow. She's got a toxicologist to claim the garden soil was naturally contaminated. If she sold that lie, our evidence might not sway the crowd. We needed to hit. First, publicly. With every neighbor watching. The plan was higher risk, but clear. Crash the town hall with the lab results. Project Karen's emails and hand the federal complaint to Daniels' team, waiting outside. Sophia would present the audit. Petition, Carlos the bottle evidence, and Ms. Evelyn would speak for the kids. But Klein was a shark. She could spin our evidence as tampered or bury us in legal fees. If we failed, Malik and Aisha could lose their home. Caleb's health could worsen, and my practice might fold. As I printed the email screenshots, my phone buzzed with another unknown text. "Back off, or your nephew pays." Karen was desperate, and I was betting it all on my lawyer skills. Could I take her down before she crushed us? The anonymous text, "Back off, or your nephew pays," felt like a gut punch as I walked into the Meadowview Heights Town Hall, my lab results, and Karen. Hensley's racist emails ready to end her reign of hate. She thought she'd silence me with a shady toxicologist and a $30,000 lawsuit. But she didn't know I'm an environmental crimes lawyer, and my evidence would turn her bigotry into a federal prison sentence. My name's Jordan Ellis, and this is how I took down a racist HOA tyrant, saved our community garden, and made Toxic Karen a viral X meme. The Decatur Community Center was a pressure cooker. 80 residents crammed in, the air thick with tension and the faint scent of Karen's floral perfume. She stood at the podium, her gray curls perfect, her blouse a mask of innocence. A projector screen glowed with garden safety solution, a lie that made my blood boil. Coalas, Ms. Evelyn, Rosa, and Mr. Chun was scattered. Through the crowd, eyes on me. Malik was with Caleb at home, his kidney issues stabilizing but fragile. Aisha was there, her face etched with worry. I gripped my laptop, loaded with lab results, the fingerprinted herbicide bottle photo, and Karen's damning emails. 3 USB backups were in my pocket. Karen's lawyer, Sandra Klein, was a viper, and I wasn't risking sabotage. "Neighbors?" whispered some glaring at me, swayed by Karen's group chat, lies calling me a race-baiting lawyer. I was the enemy, but not for long. Karen opened with fake sorrow. "The June 15th garden poisoning was a tragedy caused by vandals," she said, clicking to a slide of wilted sunflowers and sick kids, including Caleb. "Jordan Ellis's reckless accusations against the HOA have caused division and fear." She gestured to a man in a lab coat. "Dr. Alan Holt, our toxicologist, confirms the soil was naturally contaminated, not our fault." Holt, a nervous academic with ties to Hensley Landscaping, stood. "My tests show trace glyphosate from runoff, not deliberate spraying." "Runoff. My lab results beg to differ." Karen piled on. "Mr. Ellis's slander has forced us to act. Sandra Klein has filed a $30,000 defamation suit, and we're pursuing his eviction to protect Meadowview." The crowd gasped. Greg Walsh, Karen's board ally, stood, his realtor's grin smug. "Jordan's lies endanger us all. I move we lien his property and ban him from HOA events until he retracts his claims and pays all fines." A lien could bankrupt me, leaving Malik and Aisha homeless. Neighbors clapped Mrs. Lopez, whose wind chimes Karen fined. Among them, but others looked uneasy, checking the group chat where I'd posted about the herbicide bottle. Sophia whispered, "Now, Jordan." I raised my hand. "Karen, I have evidence you poisoned the garden, and it wasn't vandalism." She tried to cut me off. "This isn't your platform, Mr. Ellis." But Ms. Evelyn stood, Bible in hand. "Let him speak. My grandson's sick because of her." Sophia and Carlos echoed, and the crowd roared, "Show the proof." Karen's jaw tightened, but she nodded to the projector. Her smile a thin veneer. I plugged in my laptop, hands steady despite my racing pulse. On June 15th, Karen sprayed the garden with glyphosate, sickening for kids, including my nephew. "Caleb," I said, "my lab results prove it." I projected the report. Soil samples showed glyphosate at 10 times safe levels. Sprayed within 48 hours of June 15th. Plant samples matched with residue on leaves. This wasn't runoff, it was deliberate. The crowd gasped. I showed the herbicide bottle photo. Serial number traced to Home Depot. Karen's fingerprints are on this, found near the garden. Neighbors shouted, she did it. I switched to Nia's email hack. Karen to Greg, the garden's attracting too many Black and Hispanic families. It's lowering our property values. The spray will shut it down quietly. Greg's reply, do it. Hensley Landscaping's ready to fix it. The room erupted, neighbors yelling, racist, and resign. I kept going. Karen used $8,000 of our dues to fund Hensley Landscaping's consulting, a front for this hate crime. I projected the HOA budget, highlighting the line item. She targeted Black and brown families like mine to drive us out. Sophia stood. I've got 25 signatures demanding an HOA audit. Karen's stealing from us. Carlos added, my son Mateo's still sick. That bottle's proof she poisoned our kids. Mr. Chen waived his fine for his trellis. You fined me $200, Karen. Where's that money going? The crowd turned on her, some standing, others filming on their phones. Karen's composure shattered. This is a conspiracy. That email's fake. Her voice cracked, her hands shaking. Then came the moment that sealed her fate. The door opened, and Malik walked in with Caleb, pale but defiant, Aisha at his side. Caleb took the mic, his voice small but clear. Ms. Karen, your poison made me sick. I can't play in the garden anymore. Why'd you do it? Aisha added, you hurt my son and called us the wrong element. We're not going anywhere. The crowd fell silent, then exploded in cheers. Neighbors hugged Aisha, some crying. Mrs. Lopez approached me, whispering, I'm sorry, Jordan. I believed her. Karen stammered, I didn't mean, but the room drowned her out with shouts of arrest, her. Dr. Holt slipped out, phone buzzing, likely realizing his runoff lie was done. I played my final card. The EPA's toxic substances. Control Act bans willful herbicide misuse causing harm, a Class C felony. Hate crime charges under 18 U.S.C. 249, and Karen's actions are federal. My evidence is admissible, and the police have it. Right on cue, Officer Daniels and two feds entered, tipped off by Rosa. Karen Hensley, Greg Walsh. You're under arrest for environmental crimes and hate-motivated vandalism, Daniels said, cuffs clicking. The crowd parted as Karen was led out, her blouse rumpled, screaming. This is a setup. Greg followed, his grin gone, muttering about his lawyer. Ex-users live-streamed it, with hashtag #ToxicKaren and hashtag MEADOWVIEW justice trending by morning. Reporters alerted by Sophia snapped photos, and Karen's tear-streaked arrest hit every Georgia news outlet. The irony was delicious. Days later, neighbors noticed Karen's pristine lawn, her pride and joy turning brown, leaves curling like the garden's. A police search of her garage found a leaking glyphosate canister, the same brand as the garden's, contaminating her soil. Karen, who'd fined dozens for unsightly yards, watched her lawn die under her own poison. The irony captured in X posts with thousands of likes. Hensley Landscaping collapsed when the city revoked their contracts, uncovering $60,000 in fake invoices. Greg's real estate license was suspended, his house foreclosed. Karen faced 7 years for EPA violations, hate crimes, and fraud, her savings drained by clients' fees. Her $30,000 suit against me was dismissed when my EPA colleague, whose case I'd won, countersued for malicious prosecution, costing Karen $15,000. The HOA imploded. A 95% vote dissolved the board, citing Karen's gross misconduct under a bylaw Carlos found. Sophia was elected president, rewriting bylaws for resident-led decisions and garden protections. The city funded a garden cleanup, removing contaminated soil and replanting with community input. My law practice boomed. Neighbors hired me for environmental consults, calling me the garden lawyer. Caleb's kidney issues stabilized thanks to a fundraiser led by Ms. Evelyn. And he returned to school, sketching sunflowers again. Aisha kept her job, and Malik's math class made get-well cards for Caleb. The garden victims, Leela, Mateo, Jamal, recovered their families' winning settlements from the HOA's insurance, voided for Karen's willful misconduct. The story exploded on X. Karen's arrest video hit 4 million views, with memes of her cuffed beside her dead lawn captioned, "Toxic Karen's grass got greener." In jail. Comments poured in. Lawyer 1, racist 0, and gardens over. Hate. Meadowview became a model for community-led reform, with news outlets citing our audit petition as a blueprint. I didn't chase fame, just kept fighting polluters, helping Malik raise Caleb, and sharing this to inspire others. If your HOA is pulling a Karen, get evidence, know your laws, and rally your people. A soil sample and some courage can uproot more than weeds. 3 months later, I hosted a garden festival at Meadowview, named the Lena Ellis Green Day after my mom, who'd taught us to grow our own food. Kids, including Caleb, planted collards and painted pots, laughing under new sunflowers. Sophia unveiled a garden plaque, "Unity in Diversity." Malik spoke, thanking the community for saving Caleb, his voice thick. Ms. Evelyn brought peach cobbler, Carlos grilled tacos, and Rosa led a soil health workshop. Caleb hugged me, whispering, "You made the garden safe, Uncle Jordan." I thought of Mom, who'd fought for us against all odds. Karen thought she'd drive us out, but we grew Meadowview stronger. If you're battling a toxic HOA, the truth's your best seed, and a lawyer's eye doesn't hurt.